transport vessel slowed down as it approached the massive station floating in the darkness of space. Maya Collins stood near the viewport and watched the Galactic Unity Academy grow larger and larger until it filled her entire view. The station was beautiful in a way she had never seen before. It was made of crystal and metal that shone like diamonds under the light of three distant suns. Towers rose from its surface like frozen waves, and bridges connected them in patterns that seemed impossible. This was the most famous school in the entire galaxy. Students came here from 1,000 different worlds to learn and grow together. And now, for the first time in history, a human had been accepted. Maya was 18 years old. She had brown hair that she kept tied back in a simple ponytail, and her eyes were the color of dark coffee. She was not tall by Earth standards, and she was not short either. She was simply average in every visible way. Back home in Ohio, nobody would have looked twice at her on the street. She was just a girl who happened to be very good at math and science. Good enough that, when the galactic community finally made contact with Earth and opened their schools to humanity, she had scored higher on the entrance examination than applicants from species that had been studying the stars for 10,000 years. The ship docked with a soft sound and the doors slid open. Maya picked up her small bag and walked toward the exit. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm. She had practiced this moment in her mind 100 times. She would step off the ship, find the registration office, and begin her new life among the stars. It was simple. It was straightforward. Nothing could go wrong. She took her first step onto the academy floor. The lights flickered. Maya stopped and looked up at the ceiling, confused. The lights flickered again, and then the floor beneath her feet made a strange groaning sound, as if it was struggling to hold her weight. She looked down at herself, wondering if something was wrong with her boots, but they looked perfectly normal. Then she heard the screaming. Across the large entrance hall, a tall and thin creature with skin like frosted glass stumbled backward and fell against a wall. Its eyes were wide with terror, and it was making sounds that Maya did not understand. Nearby, a group of small reptilian beings scattered in all directions, their claws clicking frantically against the floor as they ran. One of them was shouting in the common galactic language that Maya had studied for months. The words it said made no sense to her at first. The gravity is wrong around her. The gravity is wrong around her. Maya stood completely still. She did not understand what was happening. She had not done anything. She had simply walked off a ship. Why were they running? Why were they afraid? More creatures were backing away from her now. A being that looked like a floating cloud of sparks drifted rapidly toward the far wall. A pair of tall students chittered to each other and hurried through a doorway. Within seconds, a large empty circle had formed around Maya. She stood alone in the center of the entrance hall while dozens of alien eyes watched her from a safe distance. Then a new figure approached. He was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. His body was made of interconnected crystal segments that chimed softly as he moved. Light passed through him and scattered into rainbows on the floor. He moved slowly, carefully, as if each step required great effort. When he finally stopped in front of Maya, she could see thin cracks forming in his crystalline surface. "You are the Terran," he said. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Yes, sir," Maya replied. Her own voice sounded very small in the vast silence of the hall. "My name is Maya Collins. I received your acceptance letter, and I am here to begin my studies." The crystal being studied her for a long moment. His internal light pulsed slowly, and the cracks in his surface grew slightly deeper. "I am Headmaster," he said. "We knew that your species evolved on a Class 12 world. We prepared for certain difficulties, but we did not anticipate this level of intensity." Maya shook her head slowly. She did not understand. A Class 12 world, that was the galactic classification for Earth. She knew that much from her studies. Earth was considered because of its harsh conditions. The gravity was strong. The temperature changed wildly between seasons. The atmosphere contained a gas called oxygen that was corrosive to many life forms. Predators roamed every corner of the planet. Volcanoes erupted and earthquakes shattered the ground. By galactic standards, Earth was one of the most hostile environments where intelligent life had ever evolved. But Maya had never thought of herself as dangerous. She was just a girl from Ohio who liked to solve equations. "I am sorry," she said softly. "I do not understand what I did wrong. I only walked off the ship." Headmaster made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Your body is generating a gravitational field that our sensors can barely measure. Your electromagnetic signature is strong enough to disrupt our lighting systems. Your core temperature is so high that the student behind me nearly went into thermal shock simply from standing in your presence." Maya turned to look at the creature with frosted glass skin. It was still pressed against the far wall, trembling visibly. "I did not know," Maya whispered. "I did not know I was like this." "Of course you did not know," replied. "On your world you are normal. But here, among species that evolved on gentle planets with low gravity and stable climates, you are something we have never encountered before. You are an organism, and your body does not stop being dangerous simply because you wish it to be so." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes, but she blinked them away. She had worked so hard to get here. She had studied for years. She had dreamed of walking among the stars and learning the secrets of the universe. And now she was being told that her very existence was a threat to everyone around her. "I just want to learn," she said quietly. "That is all I want. I do not want to hurt anyone." Headmaster watched her for a long time. The cracks in his crystalline body slowly began to heal as he moved slightly further away from her. Around them, the other students continued to watch from their safe distance. "Your application file states that you scored highest on the theoretical physics examination," said finally. "Higher than students from species that have been studying science since before your world had fire. Is this true?" Maya nodded. "Yes, sir, I like math." Made another sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been something else entirely. "Very well, Maya Collins of Earth. Welcome to the Galactic Unity Academy. We will find a way to make this work. But you must understand that nothing about your time here will be easy. You will have to learn things that no human has ever learned before. You will have to control aspects of yourself that you never knew existed." Maya straightened her back and lifted her chin. She thought about her home. She thought about the earthquakes and the storms and the winters that could freeze a person solid. She thought about all the ways that Earth had tried to kill her species for millions of years, and how humanity had survived anyway. "I am from Earth," she said. "Nothing about my life has ever been easy. I am used to it." Headmaster nodded slowly. "Then follow me, and please try not to break anything." Maya followed him down the corridor. As she walked, she noticed that the walls seemed to bend slightly away from her, as if the very architecture of the academy was uncertain about her presence. The lights continued to flicker with each step she took, and somewhere behind her, she could hear the other students whispering in languages she did not yet understand. Her first day at the academy had begun, and already everything was more complicated than she had ever imagined. 3 weeks passed at the Galactic Unity Academy, and Maya Collins learned many things. She learned that the library contained more books than all the libraries on Earth combined. She learned that the academy had students from over 800 different species, each one stranger and more wonderful than the last. She learned that the food in the dining hall came from every corner of the galaxy, with flavors that had no names in any human language. But the most important thing Maya learned was that she had to be very, very careful. On her 4th day at the academy, she had tried to open a door in the science building. The door was designed for species that weighed an average of 40 pounds. Maya weighed 130 pounds, and her muscles were built for a world with much stronger gravity than the academy station. When she pulled the door handle, she did not just open the door. She ripped it completely off its frame. The metal bent like paper in her grip, and the hinges exploded into pieces that flew across the hallway. A passing student, a small furry creature with 6 legs, fainted on the spot. After that, all the doors in Maya's assigned areas were reinforced with special materials. Engineers came from 3 different departments to study the damage she had caused. They measured the force she had applied and compared it to their records. According to their calculations, Maya's casual door-opening strength was equivalent to a small industrial machine. The chairs were another problem. Most furniture at the academy was designed to be light and elegant. The chairs in the lecture halls were made of thin crystal and delicate metals. When Maya sat in one during her first class, it shattered beneath her like it was made of sugar. She fell to the floor in a shower of broken pieces while the other students gasped and moved away from her. After that, a special chair was built for her. It was made of the same material they used for starship hulls. It was ugly and heavy, and nothing like the beautiful furniture around it, but it held her weight without breaking. The dining situation was perhaps the strangest challenge of all. Most galactic cuisine was either poisonous to humans or made of substances that her digestive system would simply destroy. The synthesizers in the dining hall had to create special meals for her, using food patterns transmitted from Earth. She ate alone at a reinforced table in the corner of the dining hall, chewing on hamburgers and salads while alien students ate things that glowed and moved and sang. Nobody sat with her. Nobody talked to her during meals. They watched her from across the room, whispering to each other in their various languages. Maya pretended not to notice. She kept her eyes on her textbooks and tried to focus on her studies. Her roommate situation had been a disaster from the first night. The academy had assigned her to share a room with a student named Senna. Senna was the same species as the student who had collapsed against the wall during Maya's arrival. She had translucent skin that showed the movement of fluids inside her body, and she communicated partly through subtle changes in her body temperature. The problem was that Maya's normal body temperature was 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This was like sharing a room with an open furnace. Senna spent the first night pressed against the far wall, trembling and making sounds of distress. Her internal fluids moved in patterns that Maya later learned meant extreme fear. By morning, Senna had filed a formal request for a room transfer, citing concerns for her physical safety. Maya now had a room to herself. The walls were specially insulated to contain her heat signature. The furniture was reinforced. The lighting was adjusted to handle her electromagnetic field. It was comfortable enough, but it felt like a prison cell designed for a dangerous animal. She called her younger brother Danny every night. He was 15 years old and still living at home in Ohio with their parents. When his face appeared on the communication screen, Maya felt some of the tension leave her body. He looked so normal, so human, so wonderfully familiar. "How is space?" he asked during one of their calls. Maya thought about her answer for a moment. "Lonely," she admitted finally. "That is dumb," Danny replied. "You are literally surrounded by aliens. You are living in the coolest place in the entire galaxy. How can you be lonely?" Maya smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. "None of them can touch me," she explained. "If they stand too close to me for too long, my electromagnetic field gives them headaches. If they touch my skin, my body heat burns them. I am surrounded by people, but I cannot connect with any of them." Danny was quiet for a long moment. "I am sorry, May," he said softly. "It is fine," Maya replied. "I am learning a lot." "You always say that." "Because it is always true." They talked for a while longer about things back home. Their mother was growing tomatoes in the backyard. Their father had finally fixed the broken fence. The neighbors had adopted a dog that barked at everything. Normal things, earth things. Maya drank in every detail like a person dying of thirst. After the call ended, she sat alone in her reinforced room and stared at the wall. She wondered if coming here had been a mistake. She wondered if she would ever truly belong in a galaxy that found her terrifying. But then she thought about her studies, and her spirits lifted slightly. Professor had become something like a friend to her. He was a species that resembled enormous floating jellyfish. His body was filled with gases lighter than air, and his many tentacles moved in graceful patterns as he lectured. He taught advanced gravitational theory, and he was the first person at the academy to speak to Maya without visible fear. "You solved the paradox," he said to her one day after class. He was gesturing at her exam paper with 3 of his tentacles. "You solved it in 17 minutes." "It was not that hard," Maya replied. "I just thought about it like falling. Humans fall a lot. We are used to gravity trying to kill us. So I imagined what it would feel like to fall in the specific conditions described in the problem, and the answer became obvious." Bioluminescent patterns shifted in a way that Maya had learned meant amusement. "Your people are quite remarkable," he said. "Most species would have evolved away from such a dangerous environment. They would have become softer and gentler over time. But your kind leaned into the danger. You became stronger, faster, more resilient." "We did not have much choice," Maya said honestly. "Earth does not give you options. You either adapt or you die." "No," agreed thoughtfully. "I suppose it does not." He became her regular companion after classes. They would walk together through the academy gardens, where plants from 100 worlds grew in carefully controlled environments. Kept a careful distance from her because of her electromagnetic field, but he did not seem to mind. He listened to her theories about physics and mathematics. He shared stories about his own, a gas giant where his people drifted through endless storms. But even with friendship, the rumors continued to spread through the student body. Some students said Maya was a weapon, sent by the human government to intimidate the galactic community. Others claimed she was sick, that her body was burning itself out from the inside. A few believed she was not really intelligent at all, that the humans had somehow faked their way to the stars using tricks and deception. Maya heard these whispers everywhere she went. She pretended they did not bother her. She went to class. She studied. She solved equations that had confused galactic scientists for centuries, sometimes before breakfast. But late at night, alone in her reinforced room, she wondered how long she could keep pretending that everything was fine. The combat theory class was required for all students at the Galactic Unity Academy. It was a tradition that dated back thousands of years, from a time when the galactic species were less united and conflicts were more common. Every student had to complete basic training in defensive techniques, regardless of their chosen field of study. Maya had tried to get an exemption. She had submitted forms. She had spoken to advisors. She had explained very clearly that she had no interest in fighting, and that her presence in a combat setting might be dangerous for everyone involved. Her requests were: the training hall was a large circular room with walls that could absorb impact. The floor was made of a special material that could reshape itself to create obstacles and terrain. Observation windows lined the upper level, where other students and faculty members could watch the training sessions. On this particular day, those windows were packed with spectators. Everyone wanted to see the girl in combat. Maya stood at the edge of the training floor and tried to make herself smaller. She was wearing the standard training uniform, a simple gray outfit made of flexible material. Around her, the other students in her class kept a wide distance. They had been keeping a wide distance from her since the first day of the semester. By now, she was used to it. The instructor was a warrior named Tao. He was larger than the other Maya had seen, with thick scales and powerful limbs. His people were known as one of the more physically capable species in the galactic community. They came from a world with slightly higher gravity than average, and they had developed strength and speed to match. Even so, Tal kept a careful distance from Maya whenever he addressed her. "Today we will practice paired sparring," Tal announced to the class. His voice was rough and commanding. "I will assign partners based on complementary abilities. The goal is not to win but to learn." He began calling out names and pairing students together. Maya watched as the other students moved to face their partners. A was paired with a small crystalline being. Two students clicked their approval and began circling each other. A floating cloud creature was matched with something that looked like a walking plant. Then Tal called her name. "Maya Collins of Earth," he said. "Your partner will be of the—" Maya's heart sank. She looked across the room and saw a floating toward her. He was larger than Professor, with darker coloring and thicker tentacles. The tips of his tentacles flickered with a pale blue light that Maya recognized from her studies. Neural disruptors, natural weapons that could paralyze most species with a single touch. Stopped about 20 feet away from her. He was clearly confident. His body language showed no fear, only mild curiosity. Maya understood why. He probably believed that his superior reach and natural weapons would give him an easy victory against a single human girl. He did not know what she was truly capable of, but then again, neither did Maya. "I would like to request a different partner," Maya said to Tal, "or permission to sit this exercise out." Tal made a sharp cutting motion with his clawed hand. "Absolutely not. You will spar like everyone else. The Academy does not make exceptions based on species." Maya wanted to argue further, but she could see the determination in Tal's eyes. He was not going to change his mind. Around the room, the other students had stopped their own exercises. They were all watching now. The spectators in the observation windows pressed closer to the glass. "Fine," Maya said quietly. She stepped forward onto the training floor and faced. They made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Do not worry, human," he said. His voice was like bubbles rising through water. "I will try not to paralyze you for too long." Maya did not reply. She was too busy trying to remember everything she had learned about controlling her own strength. "Be gentle," she told herself. "Be careful. Do not hurt him." "Begin," Tal announced. Moved first. He was faster than Maya expected. 3 of his tentacles shot toward her with blinding speed, their neural disruptors glowing bright blue. If they touched her, she would collapse in moments. Maya stepped to the side. It was a simple movement, a casual sidestep, the kind of thing any human might do to avoid a thrown ball or a swinging branch. On Earth, it would have been nothing special. But here, in a room full of beings who had evolved on gentler worlds, it looked like something else entirely. To the watching eyes, Maya did not step. She vanished from one location and reappeared in another. Tentacles hit empty air. The force of his attack carried his body forward in a way he had not intended. He was off balance, his mass shifting in the wrong direction. Before he could correct himself, Maya reached out with one hand and pushed him. She pushed gently. By her own understanding, she barely touched him at all. She used the same amount of force she would have used to push a shopping cart or close a heavy door. On Earth, her push would have made someone stumble backward a few steps. Flew across the room. His body hit the observation window with a sound like thunder. The reinforced glass cracked in a spiderweb pattern from the impact. The wall behind the window bent inward, and pieces of the frame broke free and scattered across the corridor on the other side. Himself crashed through the damaged window and embedded himself in the opposite wall of the corridor. His body went still. The entire structure of the training hall shuddered. Alarm sirens began to wail. Emergency lights flashed red. Maya stood frozen in the center of the training floor. Her hand was still extended, still in the position it had been when she pushed him. Her eyes were wide with horror. Her mouth was open, but no words came out. "I barely touched him," she whispered. "I barely touched him." Around her, the room exploded into chaos. Students were screaming and running for the exits. Instructors were shouting commands. Medical teams burst through doors that Maya had not even noticed before. Through the broken window, she could see them swarming around his motionless body. Tal approached her slowly. His scales had gone pale and his movements were stiff with fear. "Do not move," he ordered her. "Do not move until we understand what happened." "I did not mean to hurt him," Maya said. Her voice was shaking now. "I tried to be gentle. I tried to be careful. I did not want this." But Tal was already backing away from her. Everyone was backing away from her. The empty circle that had formed around her on her first day at the academy was forming again, wider than ever before. The academy went into lockdown. Security officers arrived, keeping their distance but watching her closely. Structural engineers rushed past her to examine the damage to the wall and window. Their voices were high with disbelief. The calculations did not make sense to them. A single push from a creature her size should not have generated that much force. Headmaster appeared through a doorway. His crystalline body was humming at a frequency Maya had never heard before. Cracks were spreading across his surface faster than she could track them. "Maya Collins," he said. His voice was strained almost beyond recognition. "You will come with us." "Is going to be all right?" Maya asked desperately. Did not answer. He simply turned and walked away, clearly expecting her to follow. Maya followed. She did not know what else to do. Her hands were trembling at her sides. Tears were running down her cheeks. She had come to this academy to learn. She had come to prove that humans deserved a place among the stars. And now she had hurt someone, possibly killed someone, with nothing more than a gentle push. They took her to a small room deep inside the academy. It was not a prison cell, they were careful to tell her. It was simply a place where she could wait while the administration decided what to do. The walls were reinforced with the same material as her bedroom. The door was thick and heavy. There were no windows. Maya sat down on the floor and wrapped her arms around her knees. She thought about her brother Danny back home. She thought about her parents. She thought about the tomatoes growing in the backyard and the dog that barked at everything. She wondered if she would ever see any of them again. For 3 days she sat in that room alone. Nobody came to see her except for the automated systems that delivered her food. The meals sat untouched on their trays. Maya was not hungry. She was too busy replaying the moment over and over in her mind. The push, the flight, the crash, the crack of glass and the bend of metal, the stillness of his body against the far wall. On the 4th day, the door opened, and Professor floated into the room. "Will recover," said without greeting. His tentacles moved in patterns of sympathy and concern. "His body will heal completely within a few weeks, but the Council is debating your expulsion. Several species have lodged formal complaints. They say you are too dangerous to remain." Maya lifted her head. Her eyes were red from crying. "I did not mean to hurt him," she said. "I have never hurt anyone in my entire life." "I know," replied gently, "but you must understand something important, Maya Collins. What is gentle for you is lethal for us. Your planet forged you into something we cannot comprehend. You are not malicious. You are not cruel. You are simply too much." "Then what am I supposed to do?" Maya asked. "Go home, pretend I never wanted to see the stars." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved closer, despite the risk to his own comfort. "There may be another option," he said, "but it will not be easy." Maya almost laughed. She looked up at her friend, this strange and beautiful creature from another world, and she felt something shift inside her. "Nothing on Earth is easy," she said. "I am used to it." The Council of Species gathered in the great amphitheater at the heart of the Galactic Unity Academy. This was the largest meeting space on the entire station, a vast circular room that could hold representatives from every member world of the galactic community. Seats rose in tiers from the central floor to a domed ceiling that displayed a live view of the surrounding star systems. Today, those seats were filled with beings of every shape and size imaginable. Maya Collins stood at the center of the room, alone. She had been given clean clothes and time to prepare herself for this hearing. Her hair was tied back neatly and her face was calm, but inside, her heart was racing. This was the moment that would decide her future. Either the council would allow her to stay, or they would send her back to Earth in disgrace, the first human to be expelled from galactic society. Headmaster presided over the proceedings from an elevated platform. His crystalline body was intact today, repaired from the stress fractures that Maya's presence had caused. Around him, the most senior faculty members sat in a semicircle. Professor was among them, his bioluminescent patterns dim with worry. "Maya Collins of Earth," intoned. His voice echoed through the amphitheater and was translated into 100 different languages by hidden systems. "You have been accused of excessive violence against a fellow student. The evidence shows that your presence poses an inherent threat to the safety of this institution. The council has gathered to hear your response. How do you answer these charges?" Maya took a deep breath. She had practiced this speech in her mind 100 times during her 4 days of isolation. Now she had to deliver it perfectly. "I answer by saying that I never wanted to hurt anyone," she began. Her voice was steady, but she could feel trembling in her fingers. "On Earth, I was considered small. I was considered average. My younger brother Danny used to beat me at arm wrestling every time we competed. I had no reason to believe that I was dangerous, because in my world I was not dangerous at all." A murmur ran through the council. Some of the representatives shifted in their seats. A few leaned forward with interest. Maya continued. "When I came to this academy, I did not know what my body was capable of in this environment. I did not know that my normal temperature would frighten species who evolved on cooler worlds. I did not know that my normal movements would seem impossibly fast. I did not know that a gentle push would have the same effect as a battering ram. I was ignorant, and because of my ignorance I caused harm." A representative rose from his seat. He was smaller than Tao, with darker scales and shrewd eyes. "Ignorance does not excuse harm," he said sharply. "Your lack of knowledge does not undo the damage you have caused." "No," Maya agreed, "it does not. I accept full responsibility for what happened too. I hurt him, and that was wrong, regardless of my intentions." Another murmur ran through the council. They had expected her to make excuses. They had expected her to blame the system or the academy or the circumstances. Instead, she was accepting the blame without reservation. But Maya continued, "I would like a chance to prove that I can learn, that I can be careful, that humans are more than just the dangerous bodies we were born in." Crystalline segments chimed softly. "Explain what you mean." Maya clasped her hands together in front of her. "I'm asking for a test," she said. "A task that requires precision rather than power. If I fail this task, I will leave the academy willingly. I will return to Earth and never trouble the galactic community again. But if I succeed, you will allow me to stay and complete my education." The council erupted in discussion. Representatives talked rapidly to each other in their native languages. Some gestured with tentacles or claws or fields of light. The translation system struggled to keep up with the flood of voices. Raised a limb for silence. The amphitheater slowly quieted. "What kind of task do you propose?" he asked. Maya had thought about this carefully. On Earth, she had spent years helping her father repair antique watches in his small shop. These were tiny mechanisms with springs thinner than a human hair. They required patience, steady hands, and the ability to apply almost no pressure at all. Her father had always said that working on watches was like meditation. You had to empty your mind and feel every tiny movement. "Give me the most delicate task you can imagine," Maya said. "Something that requires absolute control. Something that would be destroyed by any unnecessary force. Let me prove that humans are not just strong. Let me prove that we are also precise." Turned to confer with the other faculty members. Maya watched them talk in low voices, their various forms bent together in discussion. Professor was speaking rapidly, his tentacles moving in emphatic patterns. He was arguing for something, though Maya could not hear what. Finally turned back to face her. "There is an artifact in our museum," he said. "It is called the engine. It was created 300 years ago by a collective of master engineers from 17 different species. It was designed to model the movements of an entire galaxy in perfect miniature, crystal gears and delicate mechanisms working together in harmony." Maya listened carefully. Around her, the council had fallen completely silent. Continued. "The engine broke during a seismic event 100 years ago. Every attempt to repair it has failed. The components are too fragile. They shatter at the slightest incorrect touch. Our finest engineers, our steadiest hands, our most precise instruments have all been unable to restore it to function." "And you want me to try," Maya said. She understood now. This was not just a test. This was an impossible task. They were giving her something that could not be done so that they could justify sending her away. "Yes, confirmed. If you can repair the engine without destroying it, we will accept your proposal and allow you to remain at the academy." Maya looked around the amphitheater. She saw doubt in the eyes of the council members. She saw fear and suspicion and hostility. They did not believe she could do it. They had already decided that she would fail. But she also saw something else. In a few faces, in a few patterns of light and movement, she saw a tiny spark of hope. Maybe not all of them wanted her to fail. Maybe some of them genuinely wanted to see what a human could do. She thought about her father's workshop. She thought about the tiny gears and delicate springs. She thought about all the hours she had spent with a magnifying glass and a pair of tweezers, coaxing broken mechanisms back to life. "I accept the test," she said clearly. Nodded slowly. "Then we will proceed immediately. The council will observe. If you damage the engine beyond its current state of disrepair, your expulsion will be confirmed without further debate." "I understand," Maya said. She followed a group of officials out of the amphitheater and through the corridors of the academy. The council members trailed behind them, maintaining the same wide distance that everyone always maintained around her. Professor floated near the back of the group, his tentacles twitching with nervous energy. They walked for what felt like miles, descending deeper and deeper into the station. The corridors became older and less maintained. The lighting grew dimmer. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with symbols that Maya did not recognize. "This is the vault," announced. "Inside, you will find the engine. You may use any tools you require, but you may not request assistance from anyone else. The repair must be entirely your own work." Maya nodded. "May I go in now?" Stepped aside. The door slid open, revealing a small chamber filled with soft white light. And there, at the center of the room, sitting on a pedestal of dark stone, was the most beautiful thing Maya had ever seen. The engine was a sphere about the size of a basketball, but it was made entirely of crystal. Thousands of tiny gears and mechanisms could be seen through its translucent surface, overlapping and interweaving in patterns of impossible complexity. Even broken, even silent, it was a masterpiece. Maya stepped into the vault. The door slid shut behind her, leaving her alone with the engine and a room full of tools she had never seen before. She took a deep breath, she rolled her shoulders, she flexed her fingers. And then she got to work. The engine sat before Maya like a puzzle made of frozen starlight. She spent the first hour simply looking at it, walking around the pedestal in slow circles, studying it from every angle. The crystal gears were smaller than she had imagined, some of them thinner than a sheet of paper. She could see where they were broken, where the connections had snapped, where the delicate mechanisms had fallen out of alignment. The damage was extensive. It was not one simple break, but dozens of small fractures scattered throughout the entire structure. Maya sat down on the floor and closed her eyes. She thought about her father's workshop back in Ohio. She remembered the smell of machine oil and old wood. She remembered the feeling of a tiny spring between her fingers, so light that it barely existed, so fragile that a sneeze could destroy it. She remembered her father's voice telling her to breathe slowly and let her hands become extensions of her mind. When she opened her eyes again, she felt calmer. She knew what she had to do. The tools provided by the academy were strange to her. They were designed for alien hands and alien needs, but the basic principles were the same. There were devices for magnification, devices for grasping, devices for measuring. Maya experimented with each one, learning how they worked, adjusting her grip and her movements until they felt natural. Then she reached into the engine. The first gear she touched was the size of a sunflower seed. It had cracked along one edge, and a small fragment had broken away. Maya had to find that fragment somewhere in the depths of the mechanism. She moved her fingers slowly, carefully, feeling her way through the crystalline maze. Her heartbeat seemed impossibly loud in the quiet of the vault. Every breath felt like a gust of wind. There, she found the fragment lodged between two other gears, no bigger than a grain of rice. She lifted it out with movements so slow that they barely registered as movement at all. She brought it to the surface and examined it under the magnification device. It could be reattached. She was certain of it. The crystal had a natural tendency to bond with itself when the edges were properly aligned. All she had to do was hold it in exactly the right position and apply exactly the right amount of pressure. Maya thought about flying across the room. She thought about the door she had ripped from its hinges. She thought about all the times her strength had caused destruction instead of creation. Then she thought about her father smiling as she handed him a repaired watch. "You have good hands," he always said. "Steady hands, patient hands." She pressed the fragment into place. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal flashed with a tiny spark of light, and the fragment fused seamlessly with the gear. Maya let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. One piece repaired, thousands more to go. Time stopped having meaning. Maya worked through the hours without rest, without food, without thought for anything outside the vault. The council members watched through observation screens, but she did not notice them. Professor floated anxiously in the corridor, but she did not know he was there. Her entire world had shrunk to the size of the engine and the tiny movements of her fingers. She found more broken fragments. She repaired more fractured gears. She realigned mechanisms that had shifted out of position over a century of stillness. Each repair was a tiny victory. Each successful movement was proof that she could control herself. Sometimes she made mistakes. Her hand would move too quickly, or her grip would tighten too much. The crystal would crack a little further, and she would have to stop and close her eyes and remember her father's voice. "Breathe slowly. Let your hands become extensions of your mind." Then she would try again. The hours stretched into days. The academy's artificial sun rose and set beyond the vault walls, but Maya did not notice. She was lost in the work, her consciousness focused entirely on the engine. Her fingers moved through the crystal structure like they belonged there, like they had been doing this work for centuries instead of hours. Outside the vault, the observers grew restless. Some of them left to attend to other duties. Others stayed, unable to look away from the screen that showed the human girl working in perfect silence. Headmaster stood motionless near the observation terminal, his crystalline body humming with an emotion he could not name. "She has been at it for 37 hours, Professor observed. He was floating closer to than was comfortable for either of them, but neither seemed to notice. Should we offer her rest, food?" "The rules state that she cannot receive assistance," replied. "We must let her continue." "She is human," said softly. "They are resilient, but they have limits." Internal light pulsed slowly. "Then we will see where her limits lie." Inside the vault, Maya was approaching the final stage of the repair. The outer mechanisms were all restored. The middle layers were functioning again. All that remained was the core, the innermost structure of the engine, where the most delicate components lay. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear but from exhaustion. Her muscles ached from holding positions for hours at a time. Her eyes burned from staring through the magnification device. Her whole body screamed for rest. But she was so close, so incredibly close. She reached into the core. Her fingers brushed against the central mechanism, a cluster of gears so tiny that they could barely be seen even under magnification. This was the heart of the engine. If she could repair this, everything else would fall into place. The gears were misaligned. She could feel it through her fingertips. One of them had rotated slightly out of position, throwing off the entire system. All she had to do was turn it back. She applied pressure, gentle, steady, controlled, the same amount of force it would take to turn a page in a book. The gear resisted for a moment, then it clicked into place. The engine hummed to life. Light exploded from the crystal sphere, soft and warm and impossibly bright. The gears began to turn, their movements smooth and synchronized after a century of silence. A holographic image bloomed above the engine, spreading outward to fill the entire vault. Stars, planets, moons, asteroids, all of them moving in their proper orbits, spinning and rotating and dancing through the void. It was a map of the galaxy, rendered in perfect miniature. Every star was represented. Every planet was tracked. The entire cosmos unfolded before Maya's eyes, beautiful beyond anything she had ever imagined. She fell backward from exhaustion and landed on the floor of the vault. Her hands dropped to her sides. Her eyes remained fixed on the holographic display above her, watching the stars move in their ancient patterns. The door to the vault burst open. Headmaster rushed in, followed by Professor and a dozen other observers. They stopped at the threshold, staring at the restored engine, staring at the holographic galaxy, staring at the human girl lying on the floor with a tired smile on her face. Approached the engine slowly. His crystalline form reflected the light of 1,000 spinning stars. How, he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. How did you do what our finest engineers could not? Maya lifted her head slightly. On Earth, she said, we learned that strength is not always about force. Sometimes it is about knowing when to be gentle. We are dangerous, yes. Our bodies are built for a world that tries to kill us every day. But we are also careful. We are also patient. We have to be. Our planet gives us no other choice. Was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to face the assembled observers. Maya Collins of Earth will remain at the Galactic Unity Academy, he announced. His voice carried through the vault and through the observation systems to every corner of the station. Let this day mark a new understanding between our species. Humanity is not merely an anomaly to be feared and contained. They are what we might have become, had we faced the same trials and emerged the same way. The observers began to react. Some made sounds of amazement. Others simply stared. A few moved forward to examine the engine more closely, their earlier fear apparently forgotten. Professor floated down to where Maya lay on the floor. His tentacles moved in patterns of joy and relief. You did it, he said. I knew you would. Maya laughed weakly. I was not sure until the very end. A movement near the door caught her attention. She turned her head and saw a familiar figure standing hesitantly at the threshold. It was Senna, the who had been her roommate for one terrifying night. Her translucent skin was rippling with colors that Maya did not recognize. Senna walked forward slowly. Each step brought her closer to Maya than she had ever been before. Her body was trembling slightly, but she did not stop until she was standing right next to the exhausted human girl. I am sorry, Senna said softly. I am sorry for being afraid of you. Maya smiled up at her. It is okay, I am kind of scary. No, Senna replied. She reached down with one delicate hand, and after a moment of hesitation she touched Maya's shoulder. Her skin flushed with the heat of human contact, but she did not pull away. You are kind. That is much scarier. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. Good tears this time. Happy tears. She reached up and placed her own hand over Senna's, careful to keep her touch gentle and light. Around them, the engine continued to spin, filling the vault with the light of 1,000,000,000 stars. The observers watched in silence as two girls from worlds that could not be more different stood together in that soft glow. Headmaster approached them slowly. Maya Collins, he said formally, do you require medical attention, food, rest? Maya considered the question. Yes to all of those, she admitted. But first I would like to call my brother. I want to tell him that I am staying. Nodded, his crystalline body chimed with a sound that might have been a laugh. That can be arranged. Maya let Senna help her to her feet. Her legs were unsteady and her muscles ached, but she felt stronger than she had ever felt before. Not physically stronger, but something else, something better. She had come to this academy as a stranger, a threat, a dangerous anomaly from a dangerous world. But she was leaving this vault as something different, something new. She was leaving as a student who had earned her place among the stars. As she walked out of the vault with Senna at her side and Professor floating behind them, Maya noticed something strange. The walls of the corridor were not bending away from her. The lights were not flickering. The floor was not groaning under her feet. The academy was no longer recoiling from her presence. It was accepting her. And somewhere in the distance, the engine continued to spin, a reminder that strength and gentleness were not opposites but partners, working together in perfect harmony. Just like humanity itself.